Congratulations, Drillington. You are first. You are no longer a fraud.
Just provided a suspenseful sneak. We do know that Cole Young and his group will keep protecting Earthrealm, and Adeline will return in the sequel. Mortal Kombat 2 and neglected his character.
Gonna try Blaze Pizza, vegan pizza tonight while I watch the debate. No, VG doesn't like it, but I want to try it. Blaze Pizza is god-awful, dude. It is just fucking horrible. It might even be worse than Domino's before, like, Domino's made their pizza better. It is bad. Fucking bad. Bobby donated $2. He's vegan. Let me see. Good chest day, getting mentally ready. For some reason, that was, like, age restricted. That guy has some of the worst gynecomastia I've ever seen. I guess some people are into that. Weird. Thanks for the donation, Bobby.
Don't skimp me on my Piers Morgan mentees today, Richard. Why haven't you tried to email his show and scream at him about veganism? If I were them, I wouldn't let you within 100 yards of the building. But holy shit, that would be USDA grade mints.
That would be pretty minty. Yeah, I don't know. Earthling Ed, Joey Carbstrong, they've all been on. I don't know if he'd let me on at this point. I don't know if he's, like, just tired of the whole vegan thing by now. No idea. Thanks for the donation, retard. Trying to find if anyone is selling a Gen 2 ECU. Holy shit, the clutch kits are fucking expensive. Don't ask stupid questions in chat. I don't know why, but Ural parts catalog. They don't have the stupid fucking parts catalog available anymore on their freaking website. I have no fucking idea why. There's this... I don't know why the fuck they design websites like that anymore. Oh, there we go. What the fuck? Why wasn't I able to find this? Okay, they don't, they don't give a price for some reason, but... Pretty sure I need a new ECU. I took the bike apart again, and I checked all the fucking ground contacts, and I scratched off the powder coat where the ground contacts are, just to make sure they're making proper contact, and nothing, that didn't work.
Dick Cheney, the most dangerous vice president in the history of the United States, says, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. She issued a statement saying, I'm proud to receive Dick Cheney's endorsement.
A vote is a vote. Just because somebody endorses you doesn't mean that you have to
You literally take an endorsement from
we...
Adolf Hitler to win power? Jill, if you got an endorsement from Dick Cheney or Vladimir Putin, a public endorsement, what would your reaction be? The Justice
She is literally a Kremlin operative. Like, what the fuck do you think her answer would be?
Department is alleging that some of the biggest stars in right-wing social media were unwittingly, they say, part of a sinister Russian operation to influence the 24 U.S. election.
I'm not a fan of Russia having any involvement in our politics. I don't believe that many of these commentators necessarily knew exactly where the money was coming from.
There's so few money in right-wing media because it's hard to tell the truth because you get censored and taken off everything, so maybe that's why they were so thirsty.
$500,000 a month for a show that's barely doing any views from a political organization. Sure, why not? That's wild to me.
The Harris honeymoon is over, and if you don't believe me, ask the New York Times. This latest poll puts former President Trump a point ahead of his rival for the first time since the great replacement of Joe Biden. And that's despite 50 straight days of a Soviet-style program
Look at this. Oh my God. Look at that chub squirrel. That is amazing. That is a good chub squirrel. I want him. I want that big chubby squirrel. I want to rub his tummy. Oh my God. Squirrels are amazing. That's a really good squirrel. Jesus Christ.
To rebuild the vice president as a visionary cultural phenomenon and a beacon of joy. Now, there are many possible reasons for this, but one of them may simply be that ordinary Americans are getting fed up with being told the sky is green and the grass is blue. Dick Cheney is a case in point. For the past 2 decades, he's been the bête noire of American progressives, who brand him a racist, warmongering supervillain.
I wasn't even aware that Dick Cheney was still alive. I thought he died.
Became vice president because the Supreme Court, ironically, stole the 2000 election. But now he's endorsing Harris, and her campaign wants you to know it's because he's saving democracy.
What we do believe in is that the United States should retain its democratic foundations. And it's not just Cheney. I think there is a significant number of Republicans who say, well, you know, I may not agree with the vice president on this issue or that issue, but I cannot support somebody who's a pathological liar, somebody who fomented a insurrection to overthrow the election return. So I applaud the Cheneys for their courage in defending democracy. Obviously, on all the issues, we have very different points of view.
Well, Trump derangement syndrome is now so pervasive that Bernie Sanders, who studied to the left of Karl Marx, is now on network television praising Dick Cheney. The Harris doublethink doesn't stop there. Her campaign says she's simultaneously the front runner with all the momentum, but also the clear underdog in tomorrow night's debate, just as she is campaigning as a, quote, new way forward, as well as the current and serving vice president. Just as her values haven't changed, but every single one of her policies seems to, including this proud campaign as celebrating Trump's border wall, which she repeatedly condemned as a medieval vanity project. Now, some regular commentators on this show have accused me of being pro-Trump. I was often say in response, it's not my job to pick a
He is very much pro-Trump.
side or my job to vote. I'm not an American citizen. So I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but it is my job to call out obvious hypocrisy and manipulation where I see it. And love him or loathe him, and there are, of course, many tens of millions in both camps in America, Trump is, well...
Yeah, I saw J.D. Vance and fucking Elon Musk were spreading that bullshit that Haitian immigrants are eating people's pets. So fucking retarded, dude.
Oh, Trump. We kind of know what he's like by now. Kamala Harris, though, remains a pretty unknown quantity.
Like, if Haitian immigrants are gonna do anything, they're gonna, like, dig up graves or loot a fucking cemetery or something, or a morgue. Like, that's what they do. Like, they don't eat fucking dogs and cats. That's Chinese.
Quantity. And tomorrow night, we'll find out if the American people are buying into her. Well, joining me to debate is the streamer Destiny, Javier DeRusso from PragerU, host of Emily Saves America, Emily Wilson. And I'd like to welcome Jill Stein, who's campaigning for the 3rd time as the Green Party's candidate for president. Well, welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, Destiny, if I can. The honeymoon was on fire for Kamala Harris. The coronation happened. The DNC convention happened. It was all going swimmingly. And you would have expected the polls to reflect this glorious few weeks of the anointment of Kamala Harris as the joyous, brave new way forward to save America. And yet the latest New York Times poll of likely voters nationally has Trump ahead of Kamala Harris. How can that be?
I mean, we've still got a lot of work to do. And I mean, the polls are all over the place. This is a historic environment.
Polls have no predictive value. Literally none. So who cares what the polling data shows?
For a political election. Who knows where the polls are going to be a week or two from now. Everything is still changing. Yeah.
How important do you think tomorrow night's debate could be? I mean, the last debate ended the political career of Joe Biden. It precipitated the event.
Just random vids, $92. Let me see. Oh my god. Wow. That's a good anteater. Look at his big snoot. Anteaters have to have the longest snoots of any animal. That's a really good snoot. Oh my god. I like anteaters. Well, they're friends. Oh my god!
Look how friendly he looks. We're besties.
Oh my god! That's a good opossum.
Babe, can I keep him?
No, you can't fucking keep... Babe, he's drooling out of his fucking mouth.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's...
Oh my god. That's a good opossum. Thanks for the donation, just random vids.
That led to him quitting the race. Could this determine tomorrow night 90 minutes of Trump v. Harris live in front of the American...
Another bodybuilder died? Who? Let me see. Who died? Any YouTube videos about it? I haven't heard anything.
American people and the watching world, could it trigger effectively the end of this race?
I feel like debates aren't really important until they are. Historically, debates haven't seemed to move the needle too much when it comes to favorability or desire to vote for a particular candidate. But I mean, obviously, in the last debate, because people had a perception about Joe Biden that seemed to be true, after watching the debate, that shifted the needle significantly. So, I mean, it's hard to say. It could be that tomorrow both of them do their thing. You know, Kamala gives her sassy pushback. Trump gives his normal, meandering, stupid, brainless answers, and nobody really cares much about what happens because everything goes as expected. So, or it could be that one of them has a huge, you know, step out moment, that one of them loses their cool, and maybe that moves the needle a lot. It's really hard to say. I think making predictions in this election at this point is pretty much impossible.
Well, on that, I completely agree with you. Javier, you reposted on X. Day one of the Black Voters for Trump tour was a massive success. The next time the left tells you MAGA is nothing more than a bunch of old white guys, shows them this picture, the next generation of Black America will destroy the Democrat Party. And you said about Kamala Harris in August, a woman who's confident in what she stands for would be able to not only handle but address and overcome the criticism. Kamala Harris doesn't have that same resilience. Not even the left will respect her after about a year, once the honeymoon of electing a black woman wears off. I mean, strong words there, but what is interesting to me is how Trump's support amongst black Americans has been consistently increasing in the last year. And you've seen it being eroded from the Democrats, which is almost unprecedented, really, in modern times. Why do you think that is happening?
Well, it's largely happening because we're tired of being lied to. I mean, for how much longer can we have the Democrats telling us over and over that they are going to do all these great promises for us just to not follow through with anything? I mean, just look at the way back in 2020, Joe Biden went and acted like he was going to be the biggest spokesperson for BLM. Then the second he got into office, he had nothing to do with the black community anymore. We have seen these lies play out time and
That is not true. So he did pass a bill for funding for historic black colleges, and black unemployment was at a historic low under Joe Biden.
time again, and it's exhausting. We see the way that our economy is in shambles. We see the way that our border is wide open. We see all these pressing issues that are not being addressed properly by the Democratic Party.
Joe Biden made an executive order to basically shut down the border, and immigration crossings are now lower under Biden than under Trump. He also tried to pass a bipartisan bill to deal with the border crisis, but Trump told the Republican Party not to vote for it because it would make him look bad for the upcoming election. Like, these people are just retarded.
And at this point, it's like, what do black men have to lose? Why would we continue to go the same way that is clearly not working for us? Why don't we try something different and get away from the Democratic Party? And that's why more eyes are beginning to open up, because for far too long, we were told we weren't.
We've already had a Trump presidency, so, like, what is he talking about?
Even allowed to consider conservative views or conservative policies. We were called coons and Uncle Toms and all these different slurs. And why is that? Because they wanted to take away our power. They wanted to take away our power to think for ourselves and to go out and seek the truth. And
yeah, Trump, the guy who fucking hates minorities, who took out a 3-page ad urging people to rearrest the Central Park Five, 5 black men that were wrongfully accused of rape. Trump said they should get the death penalty even after they were exonerated. And Trump wants to give federal immunity to all police officers so that no one can ever fucking sue them. That's the guy you want to vote for as a black man.
And that's why so many more black men are starting to go for Donald Trump, because we ultimately want a better future.
No, Donald Trump is incredibly unliked among the black community. He's getting like 0 fucking black votes from both men and women.
For ourselves and for our next generations.
I mean, Jill Stein, it's been the
Would you debate bad empanada on Israel-Palestine? Who the fuck is that? Is he in chat? Like, I guess so.
presidential race this year where absolutely nothing could be predicted. It's been a roller coaster ride, the like of which we've never seen. This debate could be enormously transformative in the way the last one was. What do you think Kamala Harris needs to do to try and defeat Donald Trump tomorrow?
I think it's highly unlikely that this debate is going to capture the spirit of the American people. I think we're seeing the two parties basically fail. Well, I think we are seeing the two parties fail to address the healthcare crisis, to address the housing crisis, where 50% of all Americans are basically 1 or 2 paychecks away from eviction, can't afford their rent. 63% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And yet we are spending half of our congressional budget on the endless war machine. And by the way, the vast majority of Americans want an end to the genocide going on in Gaza. And
here we go. Dude, imagine how horrible the US would be with a Jill Stein presidency. She'd literally suck Putin's cock, allow fascism to take over. She'd bend the knee to, like, all these fascist dictators like Putin, Xi Jinping. She has no, like, economic plan. She's just a fucking retard.
Yet, as well as a weapons embargo to make that happen. Yet we are not seeing the two major candidates actually address either of these crises, and there's basically an unwritten agreement that we will not address the basically the dominance of Wall Street and the war machine over our economy, over our lives. The voters have basically been thrown under the bus. So it's no wonder that both candidates, I think, what you see largely are people voting against the candidate that they hate the most instead of for the candidate that they want. And I'll just say that my campaign will be doing an after commentary, also addressing the same issues brought up in the election, but from a very different point of view that actually addresses the crises that Americans are facing in every dimension of our lives.
If, though, the majority of Americans shared your view, why would the Green Party not be doing a lot better in the polling?
Well, for one thing, we're not covered by mainstream media, with the exception of, a few minutes here today, and thank you so much for that.
Of course.
But we are systematically suppressed. And let me just say that the Democrats have pulled.
No one takes you seriously. You're a fucking Kremlin asset and a complete fucking retard. This is like asking, why doesn't Vernon Supreme, have any fucking time on CNN? It's because he's a joke.
pulled out all the stops in order to throw us off the ballot. They have their army of lawyers in order to not just deny third parties, but to deny voters what voters have actually been vehemently clamoring for. You know, at record numbers, 63% of Americans are now saying they need other choices, and in this election. You know, so the American voters really want other choices here. Those are being denied. The Democrats have also publicly advertised for infiltrators and spies in order to disrupt our ballot drives, you know, and this is their strategy. They do not want to face us in the court of public opinion, keep us out of debates, keep us out of press coverage, fear campaign and smear campaign against us so that they can simply eliminate their competition. They are quaking in their boots. They have also hijacked our public funding, which we qualified for in order to prevent us from getting on the ballot. However, we are largely prevailing in spite of their army of lawyers and the rest. And
You're literally just a spoiler candidate. You're just a fucking dipshit taking away votes from the Democratic Party and helping ensure a fucking Trump victory. You're a fucking loser.
we will be on the ballot for about 95% of voters. We will be the only anti-genocide, anti-war, climate emergency, pro-worker campaign that is on the ballot.
So, yeah, there's no genocide in fucking Palestine. She's a Kremlin asset, so she wants to hand over Ukraine to Putin and allow him to invade more fucking territories. And the fucking Democratic Party is very much pro-worker. They've supported workers' unions. Why the fuck do we need you? You're just a fucking dumbass.
Across the country with a potential pathway as far as you want to go. And this is what voters are clamoring for, and this is what the debate should actually be about.
How do you feel about Kamala Harris's U-turn on fracking?
Well, she's done a lot of U-turns. I mean, This is to be expected. You know, she puts her fingers to the wind and basically, you know, she's done a U-turn on immigration.
Yeah, so there's just the reality that there's a need for energy. So Jill Stein is saying, oh, I'm against fracking. I'm against oil drilling. Duh, 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 duh. All right. Well, does anybody want to pay $10 for fucking gallon, like per gallon at the fucking pump? Like, how are you going to fund industry and transport without any energy? You fucking idiot. Like, especially now, like, we can't trade with Russia for oil. Where are you going to get the fucking energy? Has to come from fucking somewhere, right? Like, it's just a practical fucking reality. The U.S. does need to drill.
You know, she's pulling back on the tax, the increase in the capital gains tax, which, you know, which Biden had promised.
I might end up streaming the debate later tonight. I'm not entirely sure. I might just react to it, you know, next stream.
You know, and this is typical of the Democrats. You know, they went into the last election saying they were going to fight for a $15 minimum wage. They wouldn't even bring that to a vote, that they would stand for workers, yet they basically forced the railroad workers to accept a contract that they had already rejected, which created very dangerous working conditions, which laid the groundwork for the catastrophe in East Palestine. You know, they long ago, Barack Obama was talking about the public option as an alternative so that people could actually afford their health care instead of this crisis that we continue to have to this day. You know, yet where was it? The public option disappeared. The supposed bulk purchasing for pharmaceuticals that would bring down that price. Well, that became 10 pharmaceuticals by 2026 where the price would be reduced. So, you know, what we hear from the Democrats basically is a lot of lip service. From the Republicans, we really don't hear much at all. They don't even make promises. But Democrats make promises and then break them, which is why...
I wasn't planning on debating anybody later.
Which is basically, you know, driving people into the arms of Donald Trump. The most spoiled elections that the Democrats ever had was...
That's really rich coming from a fucking spoiler candidate like her.
2010, following the Wall Street bailouts, you know, while millions of homeowners got thrown out, there was the Democratic trifecta, you know, basically bailing out.
The only reason people voted for Trump was because Hillary was literally the least liked candidate you could have possibly run. Had nothing to do with people's lack of faith in the Democratic Party. It's literally just because Hillary was running. If they had chosen Bernie Sanders or literally anybody else, you could have gotten a crack whore off the street. They would have voted for them. But they ran Hillary and they got fucked over.
Out Wall Street and throwing working people under the bus. That is why people are moving to the right. That is why people are so hungry for other options. As you were saying in your previous segment, what we must have is a debate. If we can't actually have a debate in our elections, when are we going to have a real debate? And you don't get that from two parties that are bought and
Why is he letting Jill Stein flap her fucking granny gums for so goddamn long?
paid for by the same, very powerful
Dude,
economic.
she's been yapping for like what feels like 10 minutes fucking straight. It's crazy.
You know what?
By the war machine, by Wall Street, by AIPAC, etc.
I don't disagree with you. Emily Wilson, just want to talk about something. You posted on video on X saying morally superior liberals.
Is this the racist chick who said, like, black people are dumber than white people or something? Or am I mixing her up with some other blonde chick? Would you ever do an autistic debate, meaning 6 different topics at the same time? No, I wouldn't do that.
I would never vote for a felon, Trump, but here's our statue of George Floyd. Another video you said about women. I'm sorry, I'm so tired of the tens of thousands online saying I'm going to vote for her, Kamala Harris, because he's going to strip away all our rights. What rights? He was already president. What rights?
It is the same chick? Yeah, I thought I recognized her.
Did you lose? 0. He's trying to protect women's rights. Now, there'll be lots of women on the left who will say he's trying to destroy women's rights and that the whole abandonment of Roe versus Wade after he packed the Supreme Court with conservative judges was specifically designed to remove women's rights. What do you say to that?
Oh boy. Yeah, no, those 2 videos I got a lot of feedback on. No, when I specifically ask what rights were taken away under Trump, I mean, they can't say. I don't think any of those women's rights were taken away under Trump. And now that he's not, agreed to not.
Yeah, so we literally have, 12-year-old rape victims who are banned from getting an abortion because of these fucking abortion bans in various states. There have been a few women who've almost died because they needed a medically necessary abortion and then they couldn't get it. Like, is she insane?
Do the nationwide abortion ban, and now that he's moving forward with wanting to protect IVF, it's just one of those things they continue to say because, frankly, they have nothing else to say. And then, obviously, these are the same women that are single voter issues. They only care about aborting children. And then when it comes to protecting women by keeping men out of sports, out of our spaces, and dangerous men out of
What the hell is this? Oh, that dipshit again.
our country, they're completely silent on. So they don't actually care about women's rights or protecting them. Once again, they don't know what a woman is, so it wouldn't matter either way. And I just think it's funny that the morally superior liberals are so quick to be like, Trump's a felon, he's a bad guy, and all these things. Yeah, and they're like, no, felons should be able to vote and do all these things. They're like, unless it's Donald Trump. But George Floyd was apparently an amazing person, so.
Well, George Floyd was brutally murdered by a police officer who was convicted of brutally murdering him. And unfortunately, we saw it all on a cell phone. Otherwise, it would have probably never been reported. I can see you shaking your head there, Destiny. Do you want to say
this
something?
happens all the time. Whenever you debate conservatives, I mean, it's happened here. I've seen it happen in other places. It'll be like, here's the standards for, Republican lawmakers. And then they'll point to like people on Twitter on the other side. Like, well, what about that person? Well, I don't remember voting for George Floyd for president or nominating him for president. The idea that that's your basis of comparison, like, oh, you've got a problem with Donald Trump. Well, what about George Floyd? It's just such a hilariously telling, I think, example.
Well, let me ask you a difficult question.
Well, he was also a criminal that overdosed, but that's another situation.
That still doesn't get him any closer to being nominated for president of the Democratic Party. I don't understand what the comparison is for.
It's just funny to have different standards. You're like, this is fine, but this isn't fine. That's the whole point of that. You don't need to read that deeply into it. It's not that big of a deal.
It's funny to have different. Do you have different standards for different people? Isn't that the point to have different standards for different people? Like,
Yeah.
The point is
I know,
more
once
is
again,
that
that's a
the way that
joke. It
they
goes
uplift
far
George
over
Floyd. They
liberals'
put
heads.
him on murals. They have tattoos. People have tattoos of George Floyd. They uplift
Oh
him
my
as
God.
this amazing, heroic individual. And the point that she's making is less about George Floyd being president. It's the way that they degrade Donald Trump. Because yes, it is not a glorious thing that we have a presidential candidate who has felonies on his hands, but what is more her point that she's making here is that they are degrading him, making it seem like he's this awful person, like he is the worst person to ever walk this earth. But then George Floyd, who has this terrible rap sheet, he is uplifted to the heavens by the left. So it's not about him being president.
Well, let's not.
It's just so stupid. I'm sorry. I love my mom to death. She's one of the best people in the world. She would make a horrible president. Okay, if my mom was auditioning to be my mom, I would be #1 her supporter. If my mom was auditioning for president, I'd be her biggest hater on the internet. Like, obviously, you have different standards for different people. This is such an insane point. Why would you even try to defend this?
How do you think the public would react to your animal-related policies if you were to become president today? Or would you gradually build up towards those policies? I think they'd be mostly accepted 100 years, but with so many carnest fucktards today,
Everybody would complain and call me a fascist dictator and everything. If I could get away with it, I'd definitely just ban animal agriculture outright as soon as I were to become president, but probably wouldn't work out that way. Thanks for the donation, though, Babar.
At least let her dance
And
away
also
gracefully.
the
which is
entire
like, well, it's
point
just
is
a
the
joke,
left
right?
has different standards for everything except for Donald Trump. That's the whole point. Anything he does is horrible, but if anyone other
Well, let's
does
talk
it,
about. I
it's
tell you what.
completely fine.
Let's
That's the
talk
whole
about.
point of the video.
Let's talk about different standards, because I found it fascinating, Destiny, over the weekend, that out of nowhere, Dick Cheney, who was named Darth Cheney after Darth Vader by Democrats for 20 years, he was to them the evil personification, the villain figure of all conservative ills in America. The guy who took America into the illegal war in Iraq, who trampled over human rights left, right, and center. And yet suddenly he pops up because he doesn't like Donald Trump and says, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. And rather than renounce that endorsement with great speed, which is what she should have done if she had any principles, she issued a statement saying, I'm proud to receive Dick Cheney's endorsement. What happened to the 24 years of Dick Cheney's the most, according to Joe Biden in 2008, the most dangerous vice president in the history of the United States, is what he said about Dick Cheney. And here's his own vice president saying how proud she is to get that endorsement. Do you feel a sense of pride?
Endorsements are one way. He endorsed her. I mean, it represents some segment of the Republican Party that's obviously dissatisfied with trying to re-elect a traitor, an insurrectionist.
Would
So,
you
I
be
mean,
proud if
accept the
Dick Cheney
endorsement.
endorsed you?
For running for president, you take any endorsement you can get, of course.
Really?
Just because somebody endorses you,
Whoa,
just
hang
because
on.
somebody endorses you doesn't mean that you support their beliefs.
You take any endorsement you can get. So if Adolf Hitler decides to offer an endorsement, you would accept it.
A vote is a vote. Just because somebody endorses
you don't
doesn't
deny
mean that
it.
you have to. What does it mean to
You
reject
would
an
literally
endorsement?
take an
What do we say-
endorsement
what
from
do we-
Adolf Hitler to win power?
Well, right now I wouldn't because Hitler's dead. So I don't know what is the point. Do you have to go
Well, let me
around
give
and
an
try
example.
to disavow
All right.
different segments of voters that
let
are
me
voting
bring
for you?
it- let me
This is
bring
such
it
a
up to
nonsense.
speed.
This is such a nonsense question.
It's actually
Piers.
a
What are
very
we
good
talking
question.
about?
It's a very good question.
Absolutely not.
But I'm going to bring in a living figure. If Kim Jong-un decided to offer an endorsement to Kamala Harris, should she accept it or not?
When you say accept an endorsement, should she have a formal ceremony celebrating it?
If Kim Jong-un today said, I endorse from North Korea Kamala Harris to be president of the United States, would you think she should accept that?
By the way, Trump has gotten endorsements from Putin, from Kim Jong-un, I mean, the KKK,
Tell me what you mean when you say accept it. Should she tell
she-
him no,
should
don't
she
vote
issue
for
a
me,
statement
or
that she-
don't?
well,
what should-
with Dick Cheney, she issued a statement saying how proud she was that he endorsed her, and that staggered me, given what a hate figure Cheney has been for 3 decades or more.
I mean, there's two legitimate ways of looking at this. You could look at it from the perspective, wow, an extremely hardcore conservative retard who you'd expect to endorse Trump endorsed me. So I think that shows that my leadership skills and intelligence or ability to run, like, be president is just so great that even hardcore conservatives are endorsing me. Another way to look at this is maybe there's something wrong with you as a political candidate for somebody so terrible to endorse you. But I don't like I don't know what she's supposed to say in response to that. Like, Destiny made a good point. Like, what, don't vote for me? Conservatives aren't supposed to vote for me?
To liberals, progressive liberals. Here's one of the most progressive, if not the most progressive liberal Democrat nominee in American presidential history, saying how proud she is that Dick Cheney endorsed it. So my question to you was frivolous to start with. Would you accept Hitler's endorsement for a candidate? And you said, absolutely. We didn't dispute it. And then you said, but he's dead. So then I said, well, what about Kim Jong-un or President Xi or Vladimir Putin or the Ayatollah Khomeini? I mean, at what point do these endorsements, if you accept them proudly, become actually disgraceful slurs on your own integrity?
If you're going to criticize Kamala Harris for that, like, how in the fuck is he not criticizing Trump for that same thing?
This is a nonsense question. And I remember back in 2008, I watched Ron Paul get hit with the same question. When I was a young college kid, I used to be a libertarian. I think it was some KKK organization when they came out. They supported Ron Paul, and people were saying, Ron Paul, do you disavow the endorsement from the KKK leader? And Ron Paul said, you know what? If people want to vote for me, that's fine. I'm not going to tell people not to vote for me. Just because somebody endorses me doesn't mean that I support all the views of that person. You would agree with that, right?
No,
if somebody endorses you, doesn't mean you support.
Sorry, no, I would say, no, if the KKK want to endorse me, I will publicly denounce that endorsement and say I want nothing to do with it. That is called being a civilized human being. You appear, Destiny, correct me if I'm wrong, to be of the view that literally any endorsement that helps you win power is absolutely fine, even if they're genocidal maniacs.
Well, the thing is, if you're not a genocidal maniac, I don't know why you'd care.
I don't know if I would consider Dick Cheney to be a genocidal maniac.
He was literally
if somebody wants to vote for you.
He's literally was called that when they called him Darth
If somebody
Cheney.
wants to vote for you, this is an absurd standard. If somebody wants to vote for you, then allow them to vote for you. If their fans want to vote for you, then allow them to vote for you. Why would you sit here and fight against an endorsement for a vote?
Well, okay, let me go to somebody who actually needs...
Absolute nonsense.
Okay, well, I don't agree with you. I think you've just discovered you've opened a can of worms and you can't work out a way to get out of it. Let me bring in Jill Steiner. I mean, Jill, if you got an endorsement from Dick Cheney or the Ku Klux Klan or Vladimir Putin, a public endorsement, what would your reaction be?
I would publicly reject it, but let me say, I think more.
This is coming from the woman who's a Kremlin asset who has literally attended meetings with Vladimir Putin, by the way.
More important than the endorsement is the fact that the policies of Dick Cheney, his neocon approach to our foreign policy, his endless war machine, his very hostile, it's like fight first and ask questions later. I think that's the core of the problem right here, is that the Democrats have very much adopted the agenda of Dick Cheney and the Republican war machine. That is the more critical problem here than the endorsements. But yes, absolutely, I would certainly reject those endorsements.
I mean, we've got a picture.
But the real problem here is that the Democrats have really adopted the policies of the Republicans.
I want to show a picture. This is a view with a world leader. Let's take a look. It's you sitting at a table with Vladimir Putin.
Yes. Thank you. Thank fuck he did it. Oh, Jesus. I'm so glad.
Putin. So if Vladimir Putin offered you an endorsement, what would you say?
I would absolutely reject it. And I was there actually at a conference in order to...
Yeah, dude, bullshit. She's a fucking Kremlin asset. She's probably getting money from the Kremlin through like weird shady sources to be a spoiler candidate to give Trump a better chance at winning. She's also anti-Ukraine, pro-Russia. She's talked about how she thinks Russia has a right to claim the territory of Ukraine. Funny how this woman happened to have a fucking dinner and meetings with Vladimir Putin.
to challenge Vladimir Putin. Unfortunately, I didn't have an opportunity to talk with him because he sat at that table for about 10 minutes before he gave a speech in Russian. There were no introductions. There were no exchanges whatsoever, no conversations. The one person I could talk with was a former German foreign minister who is sitting to my right, Willy Wimmer. But otherwise, I was not able to talk to any of the dignitaries. The guy on my left, I thought was just Putin's bodyguard. It turned out he was like his press.
Right, so it just so happens that you tend to be, you're pro-Russia and you want Russia to invade Ukraine and you don't want to give Ukraine any military support. It's just a funny coincidence that you ended up having a dinner and meeting with Vladimir Putin.
His chief of press or something on that. But there were absolutely no introductions. And by the way, the Senate Intelligence Committee investigated in detail whether there were any connections between myself, my campaign, and the Russian government, et cetera, and gave me a full
She's pretending she can't understand Russian. She actually speaks Russian? Let me see. Jill Stein speaking Russian. Would military reductions risk ceding global influence to Russia, China?
Very, very important question. But I think the facts on the ground argue that we are likely to initiate, and to actually lead the direction of the globe. And the reason for that is that Russia and China are both very much suffering the impacts of climate change themselves, as well as the impacts of fossil fuels and pollution, industrial scale pollution and so on. And furthermore, their economies are very stressed right now, and particularly by their military expenditures. So we're spending far more than they
No, they're not stressed by their military expenditure.
They are, and we can cut ours by 50%, and we're still spending far more than they are. But what I hope to do is to initiate global disarmament and global demilitarization, because they badly need to redirect their expenditures for their own sake into addressing climate and converting their economies as well. So, I think
they're fascist dictatorships. Like, what are you, fucking retarded?
I think we need to restart our nuclear weapons talks badly, and we need to initiate talks about joint demilitarization. And when I talk about a weapons embargo to the Middle East, I mean bringing the...
Yeah, imagine talking to Xi Jinping about demilitarization. Oh, yes, Jill Stein, you make a good point. We're going to demilitarize. We're going to stop making nuclear weapons. We're going to stop building tanks. We're not going to invade Taiwan. Yeah, it's very good. Like, wait, how do you think that fucking conversation's going to go? You're going to ask a fascist dictator who's obsessed with, like, gaining more power and global domination to demilitarize? What are you, fucking stupid?
The Russians and the Chinese in on this as well. But since we provide the majority of the weapons, we can get this.
Dude, what a fucking dumbass.
Exoneration and thanked me for my full cooperation.
Okay.
So unfortunately, that photo is used as part of the Democrats' arsenal of trying to silence their competitors.
Okay, well, you've given a response to that, but let me put a quote back to you, which you said in February 2024. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was a provoked response to the bigger, more murderous and illegal game plan of US empire. In 2014, the US backed a coup in Ukraine led by far-right insurrectionists. It was a giant step towards the goal of adding Ukraine to NATO and putting hostile bases and nuclear-capable missiles right on Russia's border. That sounds like a fairly ringing endorsement of Putin's invasion.
Well, what you didn't include was the first part of that quote, which was actually a condemnation of Putin's invasion as likewise being murderous and illegal, which it was. But the point is that it was totally...
Oh, here we go. She's backpedaling. I've seen tons of statements from her where she justified Putin's invasion, so that's bullshit. She's backpedaling.
Oh my god, how could anyone lie like this on Piers Morgan of all places?
Oh yeah, she's totally full of shit, dude. Completely and utterly full of shit. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
avoidable, and once it occurred, it was actually quite fixable, and unfortunately, the U.S. and the U.K. disrupted the peace accord.
Oh my god, she's talking about that fucking meme where Boris Johnson ruined the peace agreement. That never fucking happened. It was just fake news made up by fucking assholes.
Which was well underway, a peace treaty between Ukraine and Russia, and the U.S. came in and the UK came in and said, no way. So that is the problem. This has been ginned up for
She's
a
literally
long time.
lying.
Just to clarify,
like, this is being debunked so fucking thoroughly. Like, she is just flat out fucking lying deliberately.
Circumstance that puts us all at risk. This is like, think of this
Jill,
like the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I need to ask you a question.
Like, notice when she's saying, oh no, I condemned Russia, but they did actually have legitimate reason for invading. But no, I don't support Russia. But, you know, the United States and the UK, they're actually the ones who fucked up the peace deal. Russia actually wanted peace, but we're the ones who fucked it up. Like, every single talking point she has is in defense of Russia.
Reverse.
Just to clarify, though, when you say that the invasion was a provoked response to the bigger, more murderous game of the US empire, do you stand by that statement?
So it's important. Let's put the Ukraine war in context of
Do you stand by that
75
statement?
regime change operations of the U.S. I absolutely. I would like to be able to explain that statement so it doesn't have to stand as a soundbite. But absolutely. I mean, the U.S. spends more on our military than the next 10 countries combined.
Yes, and this is why the world hasn't collapsed into complete and utter fascism. U.S. military expenditure is absolutely fucking necessary to keep peace worldwide.
We spend half of our congressional budget on these endless wars, and what's going on in Ukraine basically was just the latest in a whole series of absolutely catastrophic wars that are robbing the American people blind. We're spending half of our congressional budget. The average household, according to Jeffrey Sachs, who I know is a friend of yours as well, at the University of Columbia, it's $12,000 is the cost of the endless war machine to the average American household. Now, most Americans do not know what we are paying for this.
Yeah, and guess what? That money ensures your rights and freedoms are protected. If the U.S. didn't have that kind of military expenditure, guess what? There's a very real possibility that the American empire could collapse. All of our trading partners could end up becoming fascist fucking regimes run by Russia or China. And again, it would ruin the value of the US dollar. Like, the lifestyle you have and we all enjoy is dependent on the US military. So claiming, oh, the US war machine and the US military industrial complex, it's all a big fucking scheme to have endless wars so that military companies can get more money. Like, you're just fucking retarded. This is like 12-year-old retarded shit.
Supreme Ruler Richard, I personally have assassinated the Supreme Ruler of Iran. But don't worry, your Supreme Commander snuck up behind him and smashed his knees with the end of my M4 as instructed by you. We have also started a campaign in Ukraine.
Alright, well that's good news. Just try to, assassinate Putin. Hit him right in between the eyes. Thanks for the donation, Benedict Arnold.
Korsischen VG it has sent Gulspt into worldwide fascism yet hopeful I never.
Yeah, hopefully people like Jill Stein don't get fucking elected. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
And what the risks are, because as I was mentioning, this is the Cuban Missile Crisis
I know what
in
you're
reverse.
paying for.
And you may recall.
I know what you're paying for. You're paying to preserve.
You know what? I'm sorry?
I think you're paying to preserve freedom and democracy, which is, by the way, what America's position in the world was for many, many decades, and very successfully. I want to bring in Javier here.
Well,
I mean, it's very
it's
interesting,
no longer
Javier.
succeeding. Shall we make
bring in
that
Javier.
clear?
We're getting into interesting moral mazes here. Destiny doesn't mind having endorsements from Adolf Hitler or Kim Jong-un. Jill, they're thinking that America somehow is more to blame, it seems, than Russia for the invasion of Ukraine and so on. how are we getting to these weird moral places? Why is there not just an agreed line between people of all sides that, yes, we defend freedom and democracy where we see it attacked and imperiled, and yes, actually endorsements from genocidal maniacs are not to be accepted?
Because that would make too much sense, Piers. I mean, at this point, we've already seen that politics, both domestically and globally, it's all about division. It's all about getting us to point the finger at each other. And overall, it's just an L for all of society. I think you should not. When it comes to, I want to go back to when it comes to accepting that endorsement, you can also just remain silent if someone comes out and endorses you, because ultimately you do want those votes. But the way that the left has embraced Dick Cheney's endorsement is just hilarious to me, especially considering Joe Biden's on record saying that Dick Cheney was the most dangerous vice president of all time. And they spent 20 years calling him a war criminal and all these nefarious things. But then you have Bernie Sanders going out and saying how great of a thing it is that Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris. But again, it just goes to show that this election is very much the people versus the system. And Kamala Harris is the representation of this system, and Donald Trump is representing the people. But when it comes to just the moral standard of all these different foreign entities and all these different just allegations of who's a war criminal and who is not, we are not focusing on what we can do to actually make people have a better quality of life here in America. The number one thing that is missing from modern political discussions is actual policy, and actual policy would be relatively easy to compromise if we got rid of all the antics, but that wouldn't get ratings and that wouldn't get the attention that people want onto other things so that they can distract us so that they don't have to do the actual work that it would take to solve our country and turn things around.
Okay, let me bring in Emily. I mean, Emily, do you think, political endorsements, that right now, they can be very valuable or not, as the case may be. I'm really not convinced that Dick Cheney's endorsement of Kamala Harris will be anything but in the slightly longer term bad for her.
Never liked Jill Stein anyway. Cornel West is my president. Vote for West 2024.
Cornel West is a complete and utter fucktard. But thanks for the donation, Jessica.
Certainly terrible for him and his reputation, and his daughter, who was a great Republican cheerleader and then decided to go full on against Trump. It cost her her seat, obviously. And they're the pair of them now
Hey, Bosman, what's up, bro?
queuing up to support a Democrat nominee, and she's proudly accepting them. After 25 years of vilifying this guy as the worst of the worst.
I mean, she flip-flops on a lot of things, so I'm not surprised by this. It's also the news cycle now. Let's be real. People are going to forget about this when she does the next dumb thing in a couple days. And, the next speech comes out where in 18 minutes she can't even make one coherent sentence. But I do find it interesting. Very viral clips have been going online the past 24 hours I've been seeing of interview with Putin where he's smirking, almost laughing, saying that she should be the next president and she should win. He's basically endorsing her in this video, which I think is insane, but weirdly the media is suppressing that story right now, so I find that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's only one reason why Vladimir Putin's endorsing Kamala Harris is he wants her to be president. The only reason he wants her to be president, he thinks that she would be a weaker president of the United States than Donald Trump.
It was a
Trump,
joke.
For all the attempts to try and
it was literally a
frame him
joke.
as Putin's great buddy and so on and so on. He's unpredictable. And I think on the world stage, I quite like that unpredictability. It seemed to keep them all in their boxes, whether it was Kim Jong-un, President Xi.
Bro literally announced his own diabetes.
18 months of eating high amounts of red meat, eggs and dairy, I thought I'd get some blood work done. So let's see what my cholesterol is like. My total cholesterol, 7.7 millimoles per litre. This is considered very high. HDL and LDL are both certainly over the reference range at 3 and 4.5 millimoles per litre. But am I concerned? No. As I've already covered, simply having high...
Yes, simply having high LDL is its own risk factor for heart disease. What he's saying is stupid.
Cholesterol on its own is not the main problem here.
It is, in fact, the main problem. It's a causal risk factor for heart disease. That's why every treatment for atherosclerosis, the primary target is cholesterol lowering.
Vance gargles fascist cum.
Let me take a look.
Not certify it.
Sure.
So would you have certified? I'll ask you for the third
Again,
time.
I would have asked the states to submit alternative slates of electors and let the country have the debate about what actually matters and what kind of an election that we had.
You
in
wouldn't
these
have
important
certified,
states.
to be clear.
I would have asked the states to submit alternative slates of
I think
electors.
that's what you're saying.
That's what I would have
So-
done. Again, I've said that publicly many times.
That made literally no fucking sense. There were fake electors. Trump submitted fake electors that he tried to certify. Like, what an idiot. Yeah, so he's part of Trump's whole plan to steal the election. What a surprise. Thanks for the donation, retard.
And with that, let's look at my triglyceride levels, which is fat accumulation in the blood. 0.5 millimoles per litre. This is very low. Even though I'm eating a substantial amount of fat every day, surely this should have caused my arteries to clog, right? Wrong. My HbA1c, which measures my average blood glucose levels over the past 2 to 3 months, is a normal, healthy.
No, it's not. It was at 5.7, right? 5.7 is pretty goddamn high. Like, these are, at the end of the day, arbitrary cutoffs. And I think depending on what lab you go to, 5.7 puts you in the diabetic range.
Range. Now, if you still think that saturated fat and cholesterol cause heart disease,
I think the last time I got my HbA1c checked, it was like 4.0 or 4.1, something like that.
And your arteries to clog up, well then take a look at these studies. This showed that having high saturated fat intake had no association with high blood.
Yeah, so all these prospective cohorts that found no association between saturated fat and heart disease, they did not have a big enough difference between low and high consumers. So the association between saturated fat consumption and heart disease is a sigmoidal curve. You don't start to see that association until you're above 10% of daily calories from saturated fat. So if they have study populations that are below 10% and up to 10% at the high end, you're not going to see any difference between saturated fat intake. So he's just cherry picking bullshit research. Another problem too, like with the Epic Europe cohort, they didn't adjust for confounding factors in the first study. In the follow-up they did, but in the first study they didn't. And saturated fat consumption, especially when you're talking about high-fat dairy products like cheese, that is associated with higher socioeconomic status, and higher socioeconomic status is protective from disease because you can afford to go to a doctor, your stress is lower, you can afford like medications like statins and shit to treat the disease.
With lipid levels. Or this one, which showed that people...
Low cholesterol is associated with mortality from stroke. So this is reverse causation. If you look at any study that adjusts for reverse causation, you don't see this association. He's just cherry-picking research again.
With low levels of cholesterol, we're actually more likely to end up with heart disease or other chronic diseases.
Yeah, cherry-picking nonsense research, because he's a complete fucking dumbass.
The point I'm making is that there's nothing to fear about eating red meat and foods high in saturated fat and cholesterol.
Yes, you cherry-picked 2 studies, therefore saturated fat is good for you. Have fun with your diabetes, retard. What a dumbass. Well, thanks for the donation, Rimless Queech.
He is such a moron.
Gotta agree with that. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Jaquavius Cumberdale donated $2. Weird ass videos recommended to me for some reason. I swear I didn't look these up. What is YouTube doing? I've been getting weird recommendations too. So he's shaving an Indian guy? Okay.
Stop that, Dobby. Give me back those letters now.
The film I recommended yesterday was Search and Destroy by Martin Scorsese.
Try to understand, sir. The secrets of chamber has been opened again. This time, it may get worse.
What? The secrets of chambers was opened before? Tell me, Dobby.
Oh no, I shouldn't have told you this.
Stop, Dobby. You're waking up others. Give me back those letters now.
Then first, you have to go with me, sir.
Stop, Dobby. I don't want to fight with you.
Could Dobby do magic? That's hilarious. You could see the keyframing thing, the red dot in the software he was using.
Dobby! It's okay, sir. I'm very sorry, Dobby. I was supposed to die in your hands. That's my fate, sir. I'm very happy for that, sir. Here, sir. But you must not return back to the Hogwarts, sir. It's very dangerous. Okay, sir. I was happy being with you. Thanks for being with me, sir. Thanks for everything you've done. Goodbye, sir. Goodbye, sir. Goodbye, sir.
Like how there's just some Indian guy going to work, just like talking on his cell phone. Indians.
Are you ready for Judgment Day? Yes, we're ready, oh, we're ready, Lord. Don't you know that war don't pay? Gotta put away gun and sword. 'Cause in the good book say, don't murder or kill or slay, or you'll never find a way to heaven. When the devil brings war around, then you gotta put the devil down. No war. We ain't gonna do no killing. No war. Ain't we all guys chilling? No war. No war. Hush that bugle. Don't get Gabriel sore. I'm gonna get to heaven someday. And the gates of heaven will say, oh, St. Peter. Got a lot of room in there.
What is the point of doing that in blackface? This kind of makes me want to watch Indian Thriller again.
కోర కౌగిలిస్తే ఏం చేస్తావో నేపాళి మంత్రమిస్తే ఏమవుతావో కంగారు పడ్డ కన్నె శృంగారమా వణుకుల్లో కూడా ఎంత వయ్యారమా గోలి మార గోలి మార 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 మార
That was good.
Charlie Kirk seduced into anal slamming.
Oh, yes. That was good. I'll watch that in a second. Thanks for that donation, retard. My Knobs Clog donated $2. Have you changed your mind on that video you made in 2017 where you were glad Trump beat Hillary because she would have brought on a nuclear war? Yes. Thanks for the donation, my Knobs Clogged.
The entire time.
You're welcome.
30 on, 30 off.
How do you feel about the Senate?
As far as her tie-breaking vote of the Senate?
No. I'm just saying like Senate. Like the Senate is technically DEI in a certain sense for like small states. Like Wyoming gets people in Wyoming get a greater vote than me in California.
Like Rhode Island and Hawaii.
I'm giving you an example. California, I get less of a vote than someone who exists in Wyoming. So we're giving people in Wyoming more say than they necessarily should, given that they're one individual. So why do you believe in DEI as it relates to how our government is set up? But you don't believe in DEI in terms of allowing for people who are black or who are women to be in positions of power that they have not been allowed in, historically speaking.
So is the Electoral College and the Senate based on race?
It's predicated off of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
How is
right?
that?
Like inclusion of country areas, inclusion of rural areas, inclusion of white men like you.
Okay, so you mean like Hawaii?
I'm referencing. You could say smaller states or places that have less people in it. So obviously would be able to have more of a say per individual.
So your argument is that the U.S. Senate is a DEI? I gotta be honest, I've never heard that argument, but I think it's a little silly. But
how is it silly? Argue against it instead of just saying it's silly.
Well, right. So it's silly on its face because first of all, we have on the House of Representatives it's proportional to population.
Oh,
Second,
but the Senate isn't. So it's DEI.
It's not DEI.
Yes, it is.
Why would you say it's diversity, equity, inclusion? Because Wyoming gets 2 senators. They're their own sovereign state, aren't they?
For country areas, for rural areas, equity for rural areas.
That's not
right, for smaller states.
So let's go back to the Federalist Papers and the Founding Fathers. Why was the Senate composed?
Can you tell me
this
why
way?
it's not DEI? Like under your definition,
Well,
why
because
is it
it's not
DEI?
based on race. And by the way,
it doesn't have to be based
it's
on
also
race.
It's not based on equity and it's not based on inclusion.
Can't you have
But
DEI based upon different characteristics other than race?
Let me finish.
Whether or not you're a woman, whether or not.
Let me finish. Why? It's because we are a collection of states. We are not a federal project. So states' rights usurp federal. Do you know what the 17th Amendment is?
Do you know why the Articles of Confederation failed?
Yes, but what is the 10th Amendment?
Because states had too many rights, had too much power.
What is the 10th
That's why
Amendment?
we specifically adopted the Constitution.
Parker, let me make one point, okay? Which is, how did we used to elect senators?
It'd be population.
No, we used to elect senators based on state legislatures. So the Senate is an extension of the state legislative bodies. That's not DEI, that's federalism.
No.
That's the way that our system is
You're
set up,
misunderstanding what I'm
which
saying
is a
is DEI.
bottom-up, citizen-led government to allow the states, which are first and foremost sovereign. So it goes in this ladder in this country.
He's either not following the argument or he is deliberately just playing dumb.
DEI for those states
citizens,
and for those country areas.
No, because it's colorblind. It's not that.
DEI is not only based on race.
Hold on a second.
Diversity for country, diversity for rural, equity for rural, and inclusion of rural.
No, that's an interesting,
DEI.
it's an interesting point. So
you think DEI is only race because
you
associate it with Kamala Harris?
Let me ask you a question. Is there a single instance in corporate America where DEI is implemented where diversity means anything other than skin color diversity?
So diversity.
No, it's not about viewpoint.
Women.
What? Fine. How about?
Oh, what an idiot! He walked right into that one.
Diversity or skin color.
So skin color. There's gender. You have to move the goalpost a little bit because you got destroyed there. All right, but there's also
no. I'm just asking a very simple question. The answer is no, because
dude, he's sweating.
Our system
that
of
doesn't
government.
mean that's not DEI. It still meets your definition.
The Senate is DEI.
What was your definition though?
What
was your definition? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Diversity doesn't only apply to race. You're just saying other people defined diversity, equity, inclusion to be based on race. You didn't though.
Let me finish. Because you're saying you didn't earn it. You know who did earn it? South Dakota and North Dakota when they charted themselves into states.
Wyoming didn't earn it because they have less of a population.
Into a state. Hold on.
Man, Charlie Kirk. What an idiot. He got fucking rolled. Thanks for the donation, retard.
Hope you're doing well, mate. Thoughts on the new Nikocado avocado video? Also, how do you like Warhammer?
Warhammer's great. I can't stop playing it. It's fucking awesome. Probably the best game that's come out this year. Nikocado's video. So what I'm assuming happened was he got fed up with being so fat. I remember in high school, I was like 60 pounds overweight, and I lost 60 pounds from grade 10 to 11. And like when I was 60 pounds overweight, like I had trouble tying my shoes, walking upstairs fucking sucked. I could feel my like fat jiggling around everywhere. He was over 200 pounds overweight. I think Nick said he lost like 250 pounds. I can't imagine how fucking horrific living like that would be. So I'm assuming he just got fed up with living that way, and he probably, like, got a therapist or something, and he very likely also, went on some weight loss drug like Ozempic or something. Because he lost that weight very quickly. Losing 250 pounds in less than 2 years is extremely difficult, especially for somebody like Nick. So his whole thing that, oh, this was all a elaborate troll to like social experiment thing, no. He probably has histrionic personality disorder and narcissism. He just has a need for attention. And he also has a need to feel better and superior to everybody else. So him admitting that he had some sort of eating disorder or mental health problem that made him just do that to himself, he just can't do it. So he made a video just saying, oh, it was just a big social experiment. That's my assumption. Thanks for the donation, though, Farce.
I bet you don't even know what you were thinking when you made that video back 2016 saying you would rather vote for Trump than Hillary.
Well, the main reason why I said I'd rather have Trump win than Hillary win is because Bernie Sanders got absolutely robbed for the whatchamacall election. Like, Bernie was the candidate who should have ran. Hillary is the most unlikable Democratic candidate imaginable. Not only is she a terrible person, but you have literally zero idea what her actual policy decisions are going to be. She has publicly admitted that she has personal beliefs when it comes to politics, and then she has public, statements that she makes. And she will deliberately lie about her personal feelings on things just to get ahead politically. She's made statements about how she's extremely anti-union, she's extremely pro, corporate business. She supported the Iraq War. All this nasty shit that you don't want from a Democratic candidate. So we have no idea what we're actually going to get with a Hillary presidency, and very likely it would just be bad. You'd see anti-union bullshit. She has a track record of supporting horseshit, unnecessary wars like Iraq. And she's just a scumbag of a fucking person. Back when she was a public defender, she was laughing about how she got a child rapist to walk free. And it's like, oh yeah, that dude totally raped a little girl, but I got him free. Haha. I don't want to vote for somebody like that. So my idea was, okay, if Trump wins, that would force the Democratic Party to actually run good candidates like Bernie Sanders. I don't know if it really worked out that way. Like, Joe Biden was for sure a great candidate. He's ended up being one of the best presidents in history. I don't know if Trump winning kind of got us Biden, but that was my basic idea, that it's better that Trump wins now than have Hillary win and then have the Democratic Party run these corporate shill neoliberal, candidates that aren't really in favor of any significant social change to benefit most people. And you're really just going to have like more of an oligarchy. That was my idea. I don't know if in the long term, that it worked out that way, but, it is what it is. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
BTW, I recently watched the Luna vid and couldn't believe what happened to her. Dude's despicable. Really nice of you to make a vid on that. Hope he gets locked up.
He currently has an international arrest warrant out. So if the police ever find him, he's going to be shipped off to Germany, I think. And he's going to stand trial. Thanks for the donation, though, Farce. Bivalves are ethical, donated $3. Let me see.
Hi, good morning. The following is a clip of Robert F. Kennedy speaking with a guy named Jesse Waters, who apparently is a host on a Fox News TV show about making America healthy again. Take a listen to this here.
The way to make America healthy again is with Ozempic. Like, all this talk about how, the American food system is broken, are they going to ban processed food? No. Like, they're not going to have any kind of sweeping legislations to ban potato chips and Oreo cookies and crap like that. It's just not going to happen. So they're just talking out of their ass.
You talked when you went up on stage with Donald Trump a little while back about making America healthy again, and he's deputizing you. And you're going to make America healthy again. So when you get in there, if Donald Trump is fortunate enough to be reelected, how are you going to strangle the food industry so that it can't poison the children? And how are you going to strangle the pharmaceutical industry so it can't poison the people? I mean, that is not going to be easy. What's your plan?
No, it's not going to be easy, but, the regulatory agencies were set up to do exactly that, and now they're doing exactly the opposite. And I've litigated on these issues, Jesse, against NIH, against CDC, against FDA. When you litigate against these agencies, you get a PhD in corporate capture and how to unravel it. And I understand exactly what we need to do. We need to take the $42 billion budget of NIH, which is now being used to incubate new pharmaceutical products to treat chronic disease. And instead, we need to figure out what's...
By the way, these grants have given us drugs like Ozempic, which can literally cure obesity, so...
causing it. We need to name names. We need to say, whether it's high fructose corn syrup is linked to the obesity epidemic, establish the science behind that. And once we have a good science out there, the litigators come in and we'll solve the problem.
That was a complete non-answer. Complete non-answer. What does he mean litigators will solve the problem? So he's literally saying he's going to ban high fructose corn syrup or ban certain foods that contain it? Like, what the fuck? None of that makes any sense. The most sensible thing to do for the obesity epidemic that can actually be done, like bipartisan legislation can be passed, is to make drugs like Ozempic extremely affordable, super cheap, either subsidize it or force these companies to sell it like just slightly above cost or something. It only costs, I think, like $10 to make a month's supply of Ozempic, but they're charging over $1,000 for it. if you could make those drugs easily accessible, extremely affordable, you would solve the obesity epidemic. And all this talk about processed food, well, if you're not eating much, like you're not going to have many opportunities to eat processed food anyway. So that kind of solves that problem right there. Aside from making these weight loss drugs more affordable, you can do what the UK has done and ban advertising, especially towards children, of these highly processed foods. And obviously, you could also make tax incentives or disincentives. So if there's foods like sugary drinks or Oreos, you could have like certain categories of processed food that just get taxed, make it more expensive, and put that money into just subsidizing, healthful foods. So like make broccoli cheaper or potatoes cheaper, like, shit like that.
Hello VG, would you say it's immoral for a person who's single to knowingly hook up with someone who's in a relationship? Or is it only immoral for the person who's cheating? Are both doing an immoral act?
I would say more of the onus is on the person who's in the relationship, but I would still say it's probably immoral to facilitate somebody cheating by knowingly going into a relationship with somebody who you know is already in a relationship that isn't open. So both are bad, but I'd say more of the responsibility lies on the person who's cheating on their partner. Thanks for the donation, though, Noah the boss.
I agree with you though that Hillary is a terrible candidate, and as much as I hate Trump, I have to admit she would not have a good precedent either, regardless of what any SJWs have to say.
Yeah, probably not. Looking back, I do agree with more of her foreign policy decisions, like, being harder on Russia and shit, but again, with her track record of supporting the Iraq War, and all the other crap she's talked about, like building a border wall, being anti-union, trying to ban unions, like that's not like what you think of when you think of a Democratic candidate, Thanks for the donation though, Dodo.
If I was Jesse Waters, I would have taken this moment to question RFK on whether he had any involvement with the Haitians eating birds and cats in Ohio. He's noticeably quiet on this issue.
Yeah. Well, I would have also pressed RFK on his HIV/AIDS denial as well, and his other statements about how Jews created the coronavirus pandemic. Like, he's a nut job. Thanks for the donation, though, retard. Bibby, you donated $2. Thoughts? Let me see.
These are the states in the U.S.
Okay, I'll have to watch that later. Thanks for the donation, BB.
All right, and so what he is proposing, basically going after the regulatory agencies, maybe altering the NIH, lots of legal action to perhaps maybe even, break up some of these mega corporations. As we know, something like a handful of companies control most of the food in the world. And so we have sort of a monopoly system going on in many ways. And so, back in the 80s, they broke up the phone companies. Maybe that could happen. But the reality of that, in my view, is that at best, you'll be able to make small incremental change over a very, very long period of time. Probably every single attempt will be met with, multi-million dollar lawsuits, which will take years and years and years. Remember, these companies are funded to the tune of many trillions of dollars of assets and capital that they have. And so with that, in mind, you can damn be sure they have very, very powerful and expensive lawyers. And so any lawsuits that will be, occurring, which inevitably they will take a long time. And you think about, why do these companies have?
I mean, we already did this with the tobacco industry, so the idea that you couldn't like ban advertisement for certain food products and shit like that with the tobacco industry and tax them. I don't know why it would be inconceivable to do that with certain food products.
Have trillions and trillions of dollars. Well, because we gave them the money, right? You and I, over time, just basically bought.
Where can I watch Search and Destroy? I can't find it anywhere. I'd either try to look for a torrent or Daily Motion might have it. There we go. Official trailer.
I want to buy the rights to this book, and I want to do something with it. A movie. What's funny?
You're frightened of dying, was that it?
Yeah, I don't know. I've had trouble finding it online too. I used to have the DVD.
Bought their products over and over again, and now these guys have so much money, they basically can do whatever they want. And, any lawsuit that the government may bring against these guys will be funded by what?
Is eating imitation meat akin to treating nonce with their preferred choice of eye porn?
No. I don't know how you could compare the two. Thanks for the donation, though, Rimless Queech.
By you and I's money again, right? Through tax dollars, right? So this, again, as much as I respect what they're trying to do.
Yeah, we watched the Bruce Rivers video yesterday, Aaron.
And I hope they're successful at it. I think that would be great for the country, for our children, and so on and so my kids, and so on and so forth. I am not particularly optimistic that they're going to be able to make changes significantly in a very quick, in a rapid fashion. It is on you and me to stop buying their shitty food. Stop it. I think on there are natural. It kind of sways you one way or the other. You should look at seed oils. If you look at the label.
Yes, seed oils. The things that are associated with longevity and lower disease risk. What a fucking idiot.
Over and see the ingredient, it says, soybean oil, safflower oil, canola oil, whatever it might be. There's all kinds of them out there. Think of that as a warning label that you are about to buy a product that emphasizes cheap ingredients over quality. And just think about it that way. You're just buying cheap, highly profitable food. This is why it's there, right? The reason they put this stuff in the food is so they can cheapen the ingredients. Maybe there's some properties to help it with mouthfeel and perhaps shelf life stability. General heuristic. It's got seed oils in it. Don't eat the crap. Don't buy this stuff. I know it tastes.
Oh, okay, so when you're at the store and you're looking at cupcakes, if they contain butter, then it's good for you. What a fucking idiot.
Good. Oh yeah. I want to live a little. We hear it all the time from the people that will call people like me, oh, you're orthorexic because you don't just enjoy, ho-hos and Twinkies and donuts,
So orthorexia is not a mental health disorder. It's a made-up term. This whole carnivore diet thing is probably a form, it's probably its own unique eating disorder that needs to be classified. A lot of people on the carnivore diet aren't anorexic by definition because they don't have an unhealthy relationship with their body image and they're not undereating to a point where they're starving to death. But the idea that you'd go on a diet where you're eating nothing but skeletal muscle tissue because you think broccoli is killing you, that is some form of eating disorder. It might not have a technical term yet, but that is for certain an eating disorder. There's no reason to think seed oils are bad for you or broccoli and vegetables are bad for you, or any form of carbohydrate source like fruit is bad for you, and the only foods you can eat are skeletal muscle tissue. The diet is inherently deficient in a number of nutrients, namely vitamin C. Anecdotally, We've seen a lot of people post on like Facebook and Instagram talking about how they got blood work done and they were either vitamin C deficient or they were actually suffering from symptoms of scurvy, like their teeth started getting loose and nearly falling out. So the idea that this diet, if actually followed, isn't an eating disorder, like it just is. Why would you eat a diet where you're going to put yourself at risk for scurvy for no fucking reason?
Again, go past that. Don't care what these other people think. Care what goes in your body. You're the one that has to live with the results of that. It's you that spends time in your body, 24 money to fight these lawsuits. But as long as you keep feeding them trillions of dollars in profits over time.
So this video is stupid. The topic is on public health, and then he just talks about personal responsibility. Personal responsibility doesn't resolve public health issues. This is like saying, oh, we need mass vaccination because there's a deadly disease outbreak. Oh, well, it's on you to, like, go and get vaccinated. Who cares what everybody else does? Like, just you get vaccinated. It doesn't work that way. The way vaccines work is with herd immunity, and you need mass vaccination efforts. And if it's a serious enough disease that's going to affect enough people, you're going to have to, like, institute policies that force vaccination. So prevent people from working if they can't get, if they don't get vaccinated, like they can't go to their job, ban kids from going to school if they refuse to get vaccinated, and if it's serious enough, hold people at gunpoint. We did that at one point during smallpox outbreaks. The U.S. military and police would go door to door holding people at gunpoint if they refused to get vaccinated. And if they flat out refused and fought, they'd literally get shot. And a smallpox epidemic is certainly serious enough to institute those measures. You can't just say, oh, well, just get vaccinated, you know, use your own personal responsibility. Like, it's a public health issue. You can't just, you know, you can't just talk about personal responsibility. It's not going to do anything. Bibby donated $2. Many countries made a sugar tax on soda. More sugar equals more tax. All the manufacturers reformulated to lower sugar so they didn't have to pay the tax. I don't even understand why they're still making sugary sodas.
All right, some of you guys maybe.
We have artificial sweeteners that taste the same or better. So I don't like, if there's anything that you could outright ban that would actually cause a measurable improvement in health and obesity outcomes, just ban sugary sweetened sodas. Just force them to be artificially sweetened. It's fucking ridiculous. Thanks for the donation, though, Bibby.
All right, some of you guys may recall former World's Strongest Man Eddie Hall said he was going to start on a carnivore diet, and here is his description of it thus far 1 month in. So take a listen to this.
And total calories for this, we've got 601 calories in the milk and 2 scoops, 530 calories in the yogurt in 1 scoop, 81 calories in this, protein 60, protein 62. You ready for this? Total protein 800 weight, so that's 2.5 grams of protein for every. Losing weight, how can I lose weight on 10,000 calories a day? How does that work?
He's not eating 10,000 calories per day.
And you're pressing the A's.
So he's not eating 10,000 calories every single day. This is just a bullshit lie. Secondly, most of his weight loss is water weight. It's not fat loss. He's on a low carb diet, an extremely low carb diet, and he's just mostly lost water weight, not fat mass.
I'm pressing 8 kilo dumbbells, so the strength's going from the roof. So say, I don't know what to say about the diet. Like, I'm loving it, I'm hating it. But I think there was self. Well, just for you guys.
Okay, so as I might have mentioned before, Eddie had contacted me, and he talks about it in the full version of the video. You can watch the whole 40-minute video if you want to. He prefers the fact that we had a discussion about this on several occasions, and he was looking for just general advice on how to implement the diet correctly, and I gave him what I thought was going to be appropriate diet for his specific needs. Now, again, Eddie's not dealing with any major autoimmune issues, and he basically was thinking about, I'm going to lean up a little bit, have a little less bloating, feel a little better, and maybe have a little less inflammation. And so, fortunately, he is. One of the things I told him is you're gonna have to eat a lot. Given his, obviously huge body size, he's bigger than the average bear for sure. I mean, I'm 260 pounds. Eddie's 160 kilos, so approximately 350 pounds. So he's kind of 30% bigger than what I am, and that's a big human being. And he obviously is training a couple times a day. He's preparing himself for an MMA fight against Mariusz Pudzianowski, another former world's strongest man, I believe. I'm not sure when that's going to take place. So he's
Eddie Hall is a complete bum. That guy is a fucking tomato can. How old is Mariusz? He's 47. Eddie Hall, I think, is 36. Yeah. So he's fighting a guy who's 11 years older than him. He's fighting a guy who's almost 50 when he's only 36 years old. Like, Eddie Hall is a complete fucking bum. And by the way, I've offered to fight him. He's threatened me publicly. He left a comment saying, I'd kick your ass if I ever saw you. I've accepted a fight with Eddie Hall. I'm like, okay, I'm down. Let's fight. We can do an MMA or boxing event. I'm down. Don't hear a peep from this fucking pussy. And then he goes and fights a guy who's, like, he's planning on fighting a guy who's almost 50 years old. And he does not have the best MMA record either. So, like, Eddie is just a complete fucking pussy. Won't fight somebody who's around his age. I'm 33. He's only 3 years older than me. But instead, he's going to fight a guy who's nearly 50 years old with a terrible MMA record, probably injured, fucked up. Like this guy has done strongman. He's gone into MMA. His joints are creaking and crap like that. And I'm sure the years of steroid use and shit haven't, done wonders for his physical health. So, Eddie is just a fucking pussy, dude. He calls himself the Beast. He should just change his name to just Bitch. Eddie the Bitch Hall. Again, he's threatened me publicly. He said he wanted to fight me. And then I'm like, okay, let's set up a boxing match or an MMA match. I'm down. I'll do it. Don't hear a peep from him. Won't respond. And then he goes and tries to set up a fight with a guy who's almost 50 years old. It's just total bitch-made bullshit. Aaron P. donated $2. Please check this out. The first YouTuber I ever unsubscribed to. Spoiler, he died. Watch at 136 to 150. 136.
You to see it, I want to say a little countdown and then show it to you. So I'm going to do that right.
Does he have cancer? Yeah, cancer.
Now, 3, 2, 1, and see, that's the nice way to do it so that all you crazies that want to see it go, that's pretty gross and cool. Yeah, it is. See, it's dripping. It's pretty nasty. So demonetize right there. So it's gross.
Dude, I'd hate to have cancer on my face.
Guys, and this passes through. It communicates, Jackie says. That's a doctor-y term. So, yeah, that's the thing. There's a hole in there. I've lost 3 teeth. Molars up from the back all the way front. Wisdom tooth was gone. So 1, 2, 3 beyond that is what I have lost so far. Only on the bottom. Tops are good, but mandible's all messed up.
Well, he's dead. Take this V card away.
Shout out to everybody.
Or take his V card away.
Right now. Yeah, because you know her hair is like mad long, but her hair grow back quick, so she lucky. Let me see. I think it's in the next aisle or it's on the wall.
This guy literally looks like a turtle. He has this tiny head, thin-ass neck. And then, like, you see this weird jacket he's wearing, and it's, like, bulged out like crazy. He's like a turtle from Master of Disguise. Yeah, he's literally fucking turtle. Only he's wearing red. Like, that's literally what he fucking looks like. Like, look at the collar. Like, the collar doesn't even fit around his neck. His neck is so thin. Why is he... Like, it's just like this. Why is he wearing that?
Oh. Let me see. Yeah, it should have... What the...
And she finished both of the bottles.
What is with this fucking jacket? Okay, I don't know what that video is about, but thanks for that donation, Aaron.
What exercises build muscle behind the legs? I've no muscle back there. I'm like a flower, the way my beauty can only be seen from the front.
Well, you need to train your hamstrings. So, stiff leg deadlifts, normal deadlifts will work your hamstrings, but stiff leg deadlifts are one of the best exercises. Good mornings, and also hamstring curls. Seated hamstring curls are preferable to lying hamstring curls, but either one is a good exercise. So you just need to build up your hamstrings. Thanks for the donation though, Chamomile Cam.
He won't fight old boy David Doe.
Thank you for Jesus.
Guns down, hands up as if you cross the line. Well known from YouTube.
White Wolf 5'8". I am 1-1 in the yard. If draws will win for both fighters, and I'm 1-1. This is gonna be one hell of a learning experience for me. Going up against an older, much stronger opponent. So we'll see what happens. I'll do the best I can. I'm gonna give my heart and soul
Dude, 135. This guy is a pencil.
into it. So we'll see how it goes.
And this is the older boy David, 5'5", 141 pounds, and then my 51. I will fight glory of the name Jesus.
So he's 3 inches shorter, but 5 pounds heavier, so this guy has more muscle mass.
Yes.
Korean power! Korean power!
Alright, fighter, you ready? Fighter, you ready? Let's throw down!
Yeah, this guy definitely has more muscle mass. Like, you can see he works out. He's got like a pretty good bicep and shoulder. This guy's a pencil.
There we go.
To be fair, I think the size difference from Eddie Hall, he'd still probably be able to take on that Asian guy.
No, you're good. All good. All part of the job, man. All good. All good. Good fight. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, winner by KO. Thank you. Alright, say whatever you want. Thank you, everyone. So much to me, and I'm just a fighter. Oh, thank you for God.
Street Beefs, it's showtime. You ready? You ready? Round one, fight! It's sportsmanship.
Hey, you don't want to take it down.
Sit down, hands up!
You gotta kick that hard.
Oh.
Good work, guys. Jab, middle. Stay patient. Give me an angle. 1 minute. Short elbow.
One donate $2. Let me see.
Where were you headed, Parker?
To your class.
My class is exhausted.
I know, I'm planning to use lube next time.
Planning is not a major at this university.
These smart arms are controlled by my brain through a neural link, allowing me to use these arms to jack off up to 4 of my homies without me actually being gay.
If you're the one who's controlling arms, as you suggest, wouldn't touching your homies make you gay?
How right you are. Which is why I developed this no-homo chip to protect my higher brain function. It means no matter how many PP I touch, I will never be gay.
Just waiting for you, pal. I don't
That's
have
good.
time for girls right now. Why, you're gay? Could we get off that subject?
Be honest with me. If I showed you my ass, would you smash it? Peter, don't you understand how I feel? I'm scared. Scared that one night you will sneak into my bed.
I want us to be friends, Harry. I want us to trust each other.
So now you're friend zoning me? Am I not attractive to you?
Man, your breath smells like my crotch. Have you been sucking dick or something?
I might.
Oh.
In my head, something talking. No homo chip. Suck dick? No, I'm not gay. That's right. The real crime would be not to finish off my homies.
I gotta send that to a friend of mine. That's hilarious. That was a good one.
Now, so many people think cats chirping
Ow.
means they're frustrated because they can't reach their prey, but I've seen Raja chirp while stalking other animals that are clearly within her reach. Yes, she is always on a leash, and that's to keep her safe because she really thinks she can take anything down. There's good reason your cat actually thinks the sound they're making will attract and lure them closer, which is why it often sounds like the other animal. In fact, researchers in the Amazon discovered a cat making the same sounds as a monkey's babies, which caused them to come down and investigate before the cat pounced. This behavior would lead to a higher success rate while hunting, and over time has become instinct. This can explain why cats that are deaf still know how to chirp. It also can explain why cats chirp at objects like laser pointers or bugs that aren't making sound, as it triggers their predatory response. I've heard Raja clearly mimic the tone and rhythm of other animals while on walks outside. Inside, I've noticed her sounds being quieter, which would correspond to the auditory input she is hearing.
That's interesting. I like kitties. That last one is for later if you ran out of content, dark post, fallout results of what happens to your human body. All right, thanks for the donation one. Appreciate it. All right, let's get back to Shawn.
Training twice a day, MMA training in the morning, and then in the afternoon he's lifting, so he has a pretty significant output.
Thoughts on the PS5 Pro? I mean, I guess if you want to spend more money for the same console, it's up to you. It's so weird that they come out with the PS5 Pro when there's not many first-party games even coming out right now. It's a little weird to me, the timing. Like, I guess if they wait another year or two, it would kind of be stupid because then, like, you know, the system isn't going to be even supported for much longer. But yeah, right now with the PS5 Pro, since there's a lack of new first-party titles, I don't know why you'd bother getting it. Like, if they were making a new, like, the new X-Men game, or not X-Men, Wolverine game is going to come out at some point. I don't know if it'd be worth it just to play that same game in slightly higher fidelity. What others? Like Spider-Man 3 might be coming out like by the time the PS5's life cycle's over. Who knows? But there doesn't seem to be any new big games coming out in the near future that are first party.
Given the fact that he's also just a big human being. And a couple of things that he comments on. Well, let me further. You know, one of the things is, he's consuming, a decent amount of dairy. And I had told him that, dairy products can be fine for some people, depending. Some people tolerate them, some people don't. It's just kind of up to you to determine that. And I had mentioned, because I was in France when I talked to him, we had a Zoom call.
Yeah, Vorus, exactly what the fuck is woke about Last of Us 2? What, the main character is a girl? Like, is that a problem for you? I guess Tomb Raider's woke now?
And because I was in France, I was eating more dairy, and I just polished up like a 1 kilo I think it was Greek yogurt, fromage blanc, one of the two. And it seemed like a lot, but it's only about 800 calories. And again, I'm also a big guy and often eat 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories a day, so it's not that much, in the scheme of things. And so Eddie is, clearly
I highly, highly doubt Shawn Baker eats up to 6,000 calories per day. Like, maybe on days where he just doesn't give a fuck and to treat himself or something, or like odd days maybe where he's done way more training than normal, but there's just no fucking way. I don't know why these people lie about their caloric intake.
He summarizes his food intake, which is just shy of 10,000 calories, which is a lot of calories, given, I don't care who you are. And he comments that, hey, I'm actually losing some weight. I'm not gaining weight, I'm losing weight eating this much food, which implies that he's eating a little more than he has been. A lot of people will say, well, that clearly shows that calories in, calories out doesn't matter and all this other stuff. And other people will say, well, look, he's eating more protein. Protein has a higher thermic effect. He is, perhaps...
The thermic effect of protein wouldn't account for weight loss while eating 10,000 calories per day. There's only 3 possibilities. 1, he isn't eating 10,000 calories per day. He just does these 10,000 calorie per day eating videos when he films it, and then when he's not filming, he eats like 4,000 or 5,000. Another possibility is he's not digesting any of his food and he's just shitting out fucking diarrhea. That's a possibility. And the other possibility is he's not actually losing fat mass, he's just losing water weight, which you would expect from eating a low-carb diet. So he may possibly be eating somewhere around 9,000-10,000 calories per day, but he's not actually losing body fat, it's just water weight loss.
He's got more NEAT, he's got more energy, he's moving more, maybe he's burning more, irrespective of whatever you believe. I mean, the fact is he's eating a lot and he's losing weight, which is, kind of cool in many ways. How long that would last over the long term is hard to say. I mean, there are acute adaptations versus chronic adaptations, which may or may not occur. He comments that his inflammation is down. He also comments in the body of the video that his gut bloating is better. The interesting thing to me is he says he's feeling stronger, which is pretty cool. I mean, he's already is already one of the strongest humans on the planet. Remember, he's the first guy ever to deadlift 500 kilograms, which is 1,100 pounds for you guys that, operate in freedom units. So anyway, so the fact that he is sleeping better, feels better, less bloating, less inflammation, losing weight, and getting stronger is certainly interesting to see. And I don't know how long he'll do it. He says he's going to commit to 3 months. Hopefully he'll get to the whole 3 months so he can get a full kind of review to that. I don't anticipate him doing it indefinitely. I mean, and I don't know that he needs to. Again, I tend to promote this diet primarily as a therapeutic healing tool for people with disease. And if athletes want to do
Yes, eat nothing but red meat, literally the worst food you can eat for healing and disease.
it and they find some benefit from them, great. But I do think the thing where many athletes that criticize us that have tried it, usually the problem is they just don't eat enough. That has been what I've seen consistently, because it can be hard to do that. It's hard to throw down 6,000 calories of steak and eggs a day or whatever, and dairy can sometimes be helpful in that regard. And so good on you, Eddie, for pressing through. I look forward to seeing you make it the whole 3 months. It'd be interesting to see, what your benchmarks are with as far as regard to performance. And again, I think the key to that is just consuming enough calories, which, when you look at the recent paper that the ISSN, the International Society for Sports Nutrition, came out talking about low carb versus standard carbohydrate diet and saying the major really downfall of ketogenic style diets when it comes to performance is really just underconsumption of calories and often protein. And that's probably...
No, it's underconsumption of calories, dehydration, and a lack of carbohydrates, which is the main energy source of the body. If you're doing anaerobic exercise, what fucking sense does it make to not eat any carbohydrates when anaerobic exercise is extremely carbohydrate depleting? Like it's just retarded.
The equalizing factor, and Eddie's clearly eating enough calories, clearly eating enough protein, and I think that's really what you have to do. If you're gonna do well on this diet, there's also chronic adaptations that occur as an athlete, and they can take some time. They can take 3 months, 6 months, even a year or more for some people, depending on what sport you're in. And so, anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you find it interesting that the world's strongest man is thriving on a carnivore diet? And I know obviously there are other strong men.
No, that is not the least bit interesting, and I don't know how we can figure he's thriving. The guy's already massively overweight. His blood pressure and cholesterol are probably through the fucking roof. The guy's also on anabolic androgenic steroids, and you think it's a good idea for him to eat a high cholesterol diet where he's adding a ton of extra sodium into his diet as well. Again, Eddie's gonna die soon. He's only 36 years old, very low likelihood that he is going to end up making it much past 40. Yeah, tell him to eat nothing but fucking red meat and butter and all this fucking horse shit. That's exactly what the guy needs. Drastically changed my mind on the Mediterranean diet after living in Europe for a month.
Been some major opinion shifts with me and the Mediterranean diet. Now, you've followed me for a while. You know that I am a proponent of a Mediterranean diet and lifestyle, whether it's applied with a lower carb approach or a traditional moderate carb approach. I think the fundamentals are great, but after living in the Mediterranean for about a month, I know it's not a long time, but I recognize some things. Now, full disclaimer, I did live in Italy when I was a kid. Okay, but at that time, I was a kid. I was a teenager, and I probably didn't appreciate things and lifestyle and dietary approaches like I do now. So going back there, it was like, okay, all of a sudden I see this. Now, full disclaimer, what you see in a short period of time is not the same as when you're fully immersed there. And also, full disclaimer, the Mediterranean diet isn't necessarily suggesting that European lifestyle is the Mediterranean diet, right? There's a lot of processed food now in Europe. There's a lot of garbage coming in too. But make no mistake, the EU doesn't really allow a lot of food import coming from the US. And
yes, it does.
They probably don't allow that for good reason, okay? Because some of their stuff in the US, as you know, is probably, Anyway, first and foremost, the thing that I changed my opinion on the most, it seems to me that the defined eating period.
What's your opinion on rucking for fat loss? It's fine. If you're doing weight training on top of weighted hiking, that may end up being a little too fatiguing for you, especially if you're adding 40, 50 pounds on your back. So it's fine to walk around with a weight vest or a weighted bag. I'd probably limit it to maybe 20 pounds, just so you don't get much training interference. But, it's exercise. TVP is yummy, donated $2. TVP is yummy. I would have to agree with you. Thanks for the donation, dude.
Periods and the sizes of the meals are probably one of the biggest things with the Mediterranean diet. So if you were to try to take exactly what Europe does, exactly what the Mediterranean does, and put it in the US, I firmly believe, and I cannot say this with scientific literature and evidence, but I firmly do believe that if you didn't have the timing system down and the structure of the meals and the size of the meals down, it wouldn't work the same.
There's nothing about the Mediterranean diet that suggests that you have to have meals at certain times of the day. And depending on your caloric requirements, again, like there's nothing about the Mediterranean diet that suggests you can only eat a certain amount of calories. It's just an eating pattern. It's avoidance of red meat, saturated fat, and mostly whole plant foods, with most fat sources coming from poly and monounsaturated fats, so like olive oil. Or some nuts and seeds. That's all the Mediterranean diet is. There's nothing about a Mediterranean diet that says you can't eat past like 6 p.m. or anything like that. He's just making that up.
I noticed that lunch seems to be the biggest meal, at least the region that I was in. Light breakfast, then it was a pretty large lunch with fairly decent carbohydrates stacked at lunch, and then a relatively late dinner, which was surprising to me given all the evidence on like late dinner and sleep, but it wasn't a huge dinner. Okay, so it was like light breakfast was almost
That's nothing to do with a Mediterranean diet.
Shift on. And this is something that I've been slowly shifting my perspective on over the last couple of years, but then it really just sealed the deal. There's a respectful amount of meat consumption. And I want to put this out there because I think that what we see the Mediterranean diet as and what the real Mediterranean diet is are two completely different things. Now, I'd love to hear.
Nope. These European countries have just become more wealthy, and since they've become more wealthy, they're adding more meat to their diet. If you look at some of the early researchers like Ansel Keys that recommended a Mediterranean diet pattern back in the 1950s, 60s, they were eating very small amounts of meat. It's just that recently these countries have become more wealthy. They've become a bit more Americanized with their food system, so they're eating more meat. Again, this is something he's just making up.
Hear your opinions in the comments if you live in the Mediterranean. I do.
Like he's literally saying, I just visited Italy and everyone's eating like fucking meatballs with, like 10 meatballs with every meal. Like that doesn't have anything to do with what's traditionally considered a Mediterranean diet pattern.
Read those. I do pay attention to those. So if you live in the Mediterranean, give me your insight here. Because I did not see any inclination that there was like limited meat consumption. There was not an over-obsession with it, but I was surprised.
So he's not talking about the Mediterranean diet. He's talking about the food culture in Europe when he visited. Totally different topics.
Biggest shock to me was there was a tremendous emphasis on dairy fat and dairy protein. Lots of butter, lots of cream, lots of high-fat, full-fat yogurt, lots of cottage cheese.
So again, this is just what he noticed. This has nothing to do with the Mediterranean diet. I'm not going to bother watching this. He's not talking about the Mediterranean diet. He's just talking about the food culture he noticed when he visited Europe.
Been paying attention to
Like, this is like saying, oh, when I visited Italy, everybody was smoking cigarettes. I guess, like, smoking cigarettes is fine in the Mediterranean diet. Like, that has nothing to do with the Mediterranean diet.
the news recently. You've seen something somewhat disturbing. There are apparently Haitian refugees living, I think, in Ohio, in which they have taken to eating some of the neighborhood pets, eating things like cats and some of the ducks from the park. And a lot of people.
Is he actually spreading this lie?
People are, I guess, justifiably upset about this sort of development. And I don't know who needs to hear this. I don't know who's watching my channel. But what I will say is that beef that comes from cows has been scientifically proven to not only taste better, but also to be far more nutritious for you than is cat meat. So anybody that needs that information, there you go.
Okay, show me the research. What? He said it's been scientifically proven. Okay, show me the research. Oh, you made that up? Okay.
There you go. Now, on a more serious note, I mean, the reality is, and this is,
Where the fuck have you been, you bitch ass nigger? You seen Nick Ocado avocado weight loss? What's you think the secret behind him losing all that weight? Nigger lost 200 pounds in 8 months.
Apparently he lost something like 250 pounds in 17 months, not 8 months. But yes, I've seen it. We reacted to it yesterday on stream. He probably took a weight loss drug like Ozempic, and supposedly he was mostly doing juice fasts. So he'd eat like kale juice, apple juice, and then like he'd eat very, very low calories throughout the day. Thanks for the donation though, Kid Boo.
As sort of weird as that sounds, of people eating their neighbors' cats and stuff like that. The people that want to push for the elimination of domestic animal production for the purpose of food, animal agriculture, cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, whatever, if that were to ever come to pass, I can just about guarantee that all of the neighborhood cats would be consumed, all the squirrels, all the deers, every animal that humans could get their hands on would be consumed, because we're not, as a species, going to just suddenly stop eating animals. I mean, that's just not what's going to ever happen. And the reason these people from Haiti may do that is maybe because that's what they have access to. I know Haiti is very significantly kind of a third world country at this point, and so there's not infrastructure for probably good food production, so they probably eat whatever's available. I know some people have talked about there may be some religious ceremonies involving animal sacrifice, depending, but irrespective of that, or whatever the reason for that is, if we were to...
This guy is such a goddamn moron. He didn't bother doing any fact checking for the store donor, no. Why?